All right, so for today's episode, for this video, um, I'm going to be doing reading through, like, it could be channeling. I don't know what to call it. Not really about the labels. It's more about something like that. I'm going to see what I get and then what I'm going to get. So just bear with the video. It's going to be like an actual live reading and channeling. I don't know what to call it, but again, it could be it's anything because I realize I have these visions. I see them and I was like, oh goodness sakes, I should honor this. So I guess you can call it like I'm practicing with you guys. And yeah, and then after that, I'm going to be doing some tarot card readings, some oracle cards, also runes, and then I'm going to end with the astrology chart and seeing what comes through, what connects with the cards. And it's not going to be like really connected, but it's some are connected. At least what I discover based on what I remember from the card readings, because I don't go back to them. But there's always a connection. Whatever you guys find, whatever connections you guys find, let me know. But hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for what. Yeah. So stay tuned. Mm. I keep seeing while driving someone talking to someone in the driveway. When getting out of the car. See the top of cities looking by the coastline. It's a high-rise building. Like people talking by the staircase. Could be a biracial couple. Someone coming over with a bike, on their bike, passing the couple by. It's kind of dressed like the cap, like a mailman. See some sort of eyes. It feels like someone is watching over us. Looks like an eye, but it's like kind of colors like a peacock feather. For people, I see eyes over cities. I don't know if this is somewhere in Asia. People talking, or maybe this is, I don't know where this is. Somewhere in a like sort of wet market or kind of a marketplace. Seems like people are living their lives a little more simply. Like this is a marketplace, but people are more concerned about just coming together. I see this family in some sort of like drawn. I don't know if it's horse drawn, some sort of carriage. Mm, and some on the market people. This is, mm, I think there's this one guy who was kind of like joking, but there's this person helping them, like just hitting their back. They're kind of loosening this area up. You know, I see a child, some child wearing something like I'm wearing, like a tank top, and just enjoying life and just relaxing, being with their friends or sister, families, and seeing the eyes again. It almost feels like this flowing air, like this sort of winds, feather like winds flowing by the cities. It feels like we're being watched and guided and observed. I don't know what these birds are. Ravens. Feels like I'm on some sort of building. Like there's with clothes there, or there's a clothesline. Um, it feels like some I don't know if those are bottles or greens, like they're growing plant, some sort of plantation, like in the buildings. See people wearing makeup, like them sort of painting on their faces with straw hats. I see some sort of like paved streets, not cement streets, like soil, like just ground earth surrounded by greens, and it's kind of raining. It's kind of pouring, and then people are kind of think that they're kind of enjoying the rain. They're kind of running from it, but they're enjoying it. It's almost like it's been hot and there's rain coming down. They're kind of like saying, finally, feels like it's in the tropics somewhere. Other people also helping others, maybe because they can't move. So everyone's there for each other, but just enjoying the moment. Then I see children looking at sort of sheep or cattle pass by. I don't know. They're looking up and they're kind of looking at a camera or somewhere, and they're giggling and they're enjoying it. see this. It's like a top of a hill. I don't know where this is. Like a really high up in the mountains, but they're some sort of terrace and people looking down or little young girls looking down. They're kind of just enjoying the view. And even though there's flooding, it looks like there's flooding down there below the valleys, but people are still, well, the girls are still smiling. I don't know if this is a cave somewhere, but looks like there's some, I don't know if they're leaves or waste. I don't know. It's kind of like a cave that goes through a tunnel somewhere. It's kind of dark inside. People, there's a boat nearby, but they're kind of paddling beside the cave. Okay, I think maybe it leads to somewhere where there's like a street somewhere and there's graffiti on the wall. And it feels like it's abandoned. Some sort of neighborhood. I don't know what this is. There's someone carrying books, but they're a pile of books over their head. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's firewood. I don't know. It's layers of firewood or mushrooms, or it looks like it's flat, but they're carrying it over their head and people walking by. There's some cars, but I see palm trees. Could be the tropics as well. I'm not sure if they're palm trees, but they kind of look like palm trees, but the leaves are further down. They're kind of below. They're not, I don't know what they are. Some sort of neighborhood. I see a white fence. I see some cars. I see neighborhoods. I don't know if this is part of the United States. There's these straw houses made of straw. Kind of people weaving material together. They're coming together and then it looks like straw somewhere. I don't know if this is some sort of lit cave or somewhere underground or somewhere it's closer to Earth. People, I don't know if they're making cement out of the straw. I'm not sure. They're mixing it together. Similar neighborhood, I'm not sure. But I see like this, I don't know what it is. It's like a long, open, no roofless sort of bus. A bunch of students in like those private school uniforms are wearing white. Now I see a bunch of people in some sort of street. I think they're kind of gathered together and then they're walking past this area. I don't know, this bunch of trees on one side, and then the trees on the other side, and they're walking. I think they're students coming out of school. I'm not sure. I'm going to ask why they're showing me this. think I'm getting the message that it's part of the changes that's been going on or will happen. I don't know. Somewhere in the tropics, like people are just watching the view, the ocean view, and they're just sitting there smiling by the beach, coastline somewhere. And they're just laughing or smiling or on the ground in the beach somewhere. See someone in the boat somewhere. They're kind of taking pictures. They're wearing some sort of straw hat or those kind of a sombrero, like a. I don't know if they're making a documentary somewhere. People in the beaches. Okay, now I see beaches, but it's by a city coastline. Any coastline where this is, I don't know where this is. But I see like these skyscrapers, not skyscrapers, but tall buildings. But literally, it feels like most of the people are out in the street, like not streets, the beach area. They're enjoying the sun or out in the beaches. Another coastline. This time with very little people, but there's a road around it. I feel like this things I'm seeing is so that people are becoming more relaxed. People are more trying to find ways to calm down and be at ease, spending time with each other. I see a parent with their child. I don't know if they're having lunch together or breakfast. I don't know. He's kind of wearing like a fairy kind of dress. It's like blonde hair girl, pinkish dress, which has like frills over it, but she's just kind of on her mother or father's lap. And some, yeah, again, another beach area, somewhere in an island, probably somewhere. I don't know if this is water pouring out of cement. There's water coming out. I don't know if it's from flooding or there's a lot of rain going on, or at least after the rain, a lot of water flowing. People are enjoying it though. Like, I mean, there's flooding, there's part of the soil kind of eroded, but people are dancing in the rain. Mm. Mm. See people in white robes. I don't know if they're of any positions or authority figures, but they seem friendly. Just wearing white. I don't know if it's angelic in feel. It's like just white. At least this guy is this older guy, middle age or much older in his 60s. He's wearing a white robe. Hmm. I feel like he's come for a message. I don't know what that is. Message of hope. I feel like cities are becoming more green. I see like I'm being shown lots of trees, greens around. Like it's just I think people are people are feels like people are just enjoying life. I just see a lot of trees, a lot of bushes, trees, grass, anything green, and people just being in the moment. People hanging around, a lot of close to water. I see a bench, people just hanging out. Some winds blowing, but people feel undeterred or they're not bothered by the weather, the rain, or the heat. Feel like there's roads I'm seeing, but I don't know if there's fewer cars or I just see traffic, not traffic, they're just flowing. All right. So, hello. Um, I just came out of doing like a reading, and this is my second time recording something like this where I'm going to I do a reading, like a download, because I feel like I just wanted to share what's there, what I'm seeing. Whoever it resonates with, it resonates with. Whoever gets, it's not to anyone's particular, like on purpose. Like it's more general. So I was trying to channel and connect rather. I mean, these are all labels, but I mean, I guess you can say channel images in my head, like whatever images come through. Because I've been kind of working on it, kind of on and off. Um, it takes a while to kind of get back into the flow when you're going through reading. It feels very relaxing, but it's at the same time, it's kind of like easy to really surrender, right? So I think the more people get in, the more we elevate, the more we progress through this timeline, the more people are going to hone in on specific gifts. It doesn't necessarily have to be like this. I've always kind of thought it was like, why am I having these images in my head? I'm like, I have these images in my head. Like, what are they? It's like, who's that? Who is that? Who is this? Who is that? So random, like really random images. I never thought of them. Like, this is, and I'm just like thinking, is that like wishful thinking? Is that someone I thought about? It's like, no, I don't recognize that face at all. There have been times where it's like I recognize someone, it feels familiar, but those are like random times where it's kind of like a dream or like it's stronger in my dreams, I find. Well, maybe both. Um, but yeah, anyways, I wanted to share what I get from, um, cards, and I'm going to do the reading for astrology. See what the runes say. Oh, okay. The rune just came out of my sack. Put away. Let me fix that. And I'm only getting 7 runes here. The first rune I got, still need a runes, by the way, but it's fun. It's you never know what you're gonna get. The box is chocolate. So it's in the rune is Dag. It's referring to light, health, and prosperity. Feel like that's what's kind of showing in, what was kind of showing up in the reading. The next rune is, what is this one? Fjord, fate, life's beginnings and endings. Okay, that kind of makes sense, right? These things are coming in. Like I feel like there's that white guy in a white robe, and then there was a bunch of other people that were in white. Actually, I remember that, and then I remember seeing something like it felt like angelic, but it wasn't like towards me. It was just like this guy who was kind of like part of it, or he was carrying them, or he was like part of his guide system. I don't know what it was. Could be a prophet. I don't know. Next one here is the rune Os, communication and sound reasoning. Yep, being logical as other people that were talking to each other a lot. There's or life force, strength and courage. Yeah, amidst all the chaos, amidst the flooding, and then there's heat waves, and then I didn't see earthquakes. Maybe I did see something like that, but I don't know. But amidst all that stuff, the darkness, I saw the cave, and I think that was telling me they were telling me, guys were telling me that it's like darkness in times of darkness or trauma, that there's courage. And there's ing, transformation, assisting spiritual growth. That's, yeah, really people going through that change and really accepting and being present in the moment. Then I have gifu, giving and receiving compensation. There's that whole helping each other. That was interesting. And this one finally is, what is this one? Sigil, self-esteem, spiritual guidance, leadership. I think that's what it was. I think that's what that robe was, the guy in the robe. It was calling in your leadership, calling in your sovereignty, that you're here to lead others. Very wonderful. That's very interesting. Okay. Thank you, Rose. Let's see what the cards have in store for us today. It's one of those things where it comes to the tarot decks. It's there are, I'm pretty sure people who do a lot of tarot start to remember how it works. I'm more used to astrology, as you've probably seen my channel, but it's all part of divination, and yeah. See what we got here. That's huge. Okay. Usually when it comes to tarot, for those who don't know, or at least are still new to. I'm still new to it. What I realize is that if it comes out, that's the one that wants to come out. And that's the one that wants to come out. Let's see if I do the okay. Uh-huh. Two cards came out. And the key is to, I think, relax and just let it happen. I'm gonna go with one more and see if. Oh, okay. There you go. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 cards. Okay. I think that's let's go with that deck. Page of Swords. I don't know if this ties to leadership, but I feel like it's something to do with going with the flow. He's like on top of the shore, like the land, and he's kind of like, I'm gonna go my own way. It feels like that's what it's telling me. It's like, he's facing everyone and saying, well, I know my own way, and really trusting. The sword is pointing up, so it feels like this going up and really kind of figuring out your own sovereignty and connection to the divine. This one is death. I got the death card. You're probably, oh no, death cards. But it's upside down. So I feel like that's what you call that? There's a term for it. But because it's death card, it's like time for change. And there are people who might refuse it. There are people who misuse. I feel like this is not telling me it's like people who want riches, they want power. They kind of using death as a means to coerce people into power. But there are people who refuse to listen to that and just say like, I know my own thing. There's this child here. Feels like that's like the innocent. The child is looking at it and then just looking at it as if it's like, okay. It's just, it's part of life. But there are those who would appease death, who would appease change, who would appease transformation, and kind of holding on to the past. It's funny how I see the symbol of 5. I just chose 5 cards today. 5 in numerology represents, what does it represent again? Let me go back here. Expression of personal freedom, sensuality, curiosity, wit, adventure. Right? So there's that transformation that comes through with the need for transformation. It's personal freedom comes with that. In order for us to have transformation, or in order for us to have freedom, we need to go through the transformation of dying, losing things. Ego could be physical things, could be actual life itself, but it's being reborn. It's time for change, right? That's what death represents. But it is upside down, so that means I think it's more on the spiritual side. It's more on the not physical. But if anything, that could be anything as well. 2 of Swords. This one showing the moon at the very top, kind of maybe feeling kind of like trusting, can go either way. He's blind. She's blind. So she's blindfolded rather. And she's kind of like, in a way, I feel like it's something to do with the precipice. She's like kind of, the swords are coming on both sides. And the moon is showing it's just like maybe trust your instincts and listen to the oceans, listen to the calmness in yourself, listen to the waves, and listen to the emotions, and see where they guide you. Not impulse, but rather the calmness within, and learning to see from that place of like, that inner stillness that is not just from the quietness, but rather, and then it'll help you decide. At least that's how I see it. Then we have the 6 of Pentacles. This one I believe I've seen before, but it says something. I feel like right now it's telling me to kind of decide and maybe P of service. And it's funny because it's like in the runes, I saw something like with service. Right? That's very interesting. But kind of balancing whether you should know when to give and when to receive. It's kind of balancing. There's a scale of balance right there. And pentacles are air. So it's a lot to do with balance right now. And air is coming through right now a lot in the planets. Then we have Queen of Swords. Here is like more about the sovereignty and kind of saying, being a leader and saying, okay, standing your ground, but also kind of really coming from a place of divine sovereignty and really connecting. But sometimes there might be, I don't know if there may be, we have to be mindful of our own guidance itself. Because it could be where we get into the ego and the egoic need for power, control over things, control over what we can control. This belief, there's this angel, like in this chair. It feels like this. That the chair is a sign for like control, as if it's like, well, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to my own separated self. This time, I'm not going to go through the book. I'm going to let it as it is, and then see what goes from that. Let's see what the dragon cards have. It's a beautiful deck that I got. It's like these cards. Some people have seen them, but yeah. This one I'm gonna have to use a book for this one. It comes with a book. Shuffling, shuffling, shuffling. Whatever comes up will come up. When you feel yourself sort of tighten, because I do that when I'm like moving things, like my arms kind of tighten. It's best to kind of relax that too, because you also want to be like kind of like a conduit, and then you'll see what cards want to come up. I feel like I might just get one card today. I'm not sure. These things take time. What do you want to show me? That's the patience. Okay, the cards don't want to come out. That's okay. We'll come back to that one. Until this other Oracle card deck. See, uh-huh. This one, the Traveler. I feel like people want to go everywhere. People want to be kind of feel that they can do anything they want, right? Um, it's just passing through this portal of like, what does it mean to what does it mean to go from change from one state to the other? There's this like thing that's pulling this little carriage there. I think this is what I was saying. I felt like this carriage, something to do with being pulled towards a certain direction. If you're if you feel like you're being pulled, you can you can either choose to follow it or not. And you have to be mindful of where your light goes. You have to kind of see where it's like, it feels like I'm getting this thing where it's like this feeling that it's like, you have to find your inner light. And if you follow the wrong light, it might get you in the wrong direction. And you might come from a place that's like, that, you're going from change to change, but if you don't know where you're headed, that's still okay. Kind of like trust the fact that it's like, that it's okay. You don't know where you're headed. Kind of take it one step at a time. Be kind of also loose that this image right here, the thing that's pulling it, it's almost like the legs are kind of like detached from it. And it feels like it's okay to trust the uncertainty of being detached from it as well, from just being in the moment, being detached from the future, just from the past and detached from. It's really about detachment and transitions. Kind of ties in with the cards that I got earlier. Uh-huh. Okay. Lilith. Two cards came up. Lilith as hunger, animalism, instinct. Remember I said earlier I think I said something about instinct, following your intuition instinct. They're kind of not similar, but yeah. The Lilith, as we all know, she was the first wife of Adam. She wanted independence. So it's kind of like trusting your own instincts. The moon right here. I had the card here. There's a moon there. So trying to calm yourself, finding the calmness within, the stillness within, and finding that whole like working with the darkness and working with your animal side, and realizing that even though you have the hunger, it's not necessarily like hunger, like craving for external satisfaction, but that hunger to kind of connect and be one and be sovereign. And Lilith is about sovereignty. Lilith is about the shadow as well. She's also about shadow work. But animalism here, I believe this one is also telling me that it's like, it's even though you might feel kind of caged, and it's okay to let loose every now and then, to not necessarily loose for the sake of like, I'm going to say like fuck you kind of thing. It's just really like really trusting that inner the inner darker energy, which is people think it's like dark, but it's like not necessarily dark as in evil, but like dark as in like the stillness, the source of creation itself, right? If you look at the void, right? That's what it is. It's this source of creation. It's source power. It's like the universe is dark for a reason. Like if you go out there, the majority of it just is space. It's dark. It's black. People think black is like, oh, it's evil. It's like it's against light. It's like, well, that's actually where creativity comes in. So enjoying and kind of holding that inner hunger, the desire for creativity, the desire to kind of pave your own path, right? It kind of ties in with the traveler card. This other card that wanted to come through, Maestro, Master of Inspiration, okay, understanding community and ingenuity. So this one is kind of, people have the keys. I see him. He's carrying some sort of like book. It's like knowledge. He's actually feels like there's a force lights around him. So it could be representing the elements, earth, fire, air, water. But it could also represent um, the locations north, south, east, west. So kind of like being open to being anywhere, being understanding and open, and kind of like really um, being kind of more observant and also neutral in terms of like how we connect with each other. Communities, right? He says your community, but ingenuity is also part of this. So, which this one ties in with the Pluto in Aquarius right now, and Pluto is we're also in the Aquarian age, so that kind of ties in with being ingenuity, which is like being true to your own word genuity, genuine, right? So ingenuity is like kind of holding that inner knowledge, inner wisdom. It says here it looks like there's what is that? I don't know what kind of wheel that is. It's like he's like one, two. It's like it has a little bit of a. I don't know what kind of thing that is. Like a spoke. I don't know what that is. But he's showing that he's going looking at this. He's going like this, and he's saying that look at look at the inner wisdom from within. And he's not just looking at the book for the sake of the book. His eyes are lit up, and it talks about ingenuity here, meaning like you can find that inner creativity when you kind of ground yourself a bit more and be more observant in your emotions specifically or anything that we're going through. It ties in with exactly what the vision was saying, like the images that I got. So wonderful. We're gonna see if the dragon cards have something to say. Do you want to show me something? Hmm. I think it's, I don't know, something. I don't know if it's the energy that I have. I don't know. Maybe because we already have the answer. Let's try that again. Okay, one last bit. Uh-huh. Thank you. Cards came out. Premise and Luna. That's interesting. The moon in the tarot cards showed up. Um, okay. So Let's go with Actramus first. Actramus. I've never seen Actramus before. That is 17. Let's right beside each other. Okay. Atramus connects with the Arcturian civilization, the peacekeepers of the galaxies. This beautiful dragon announced himself to me by stating, I am Dragon Atramus of the seventh golden ray dimension. I am kin to the Atlantean dragons, who were seventh dimensional, but chose to work with the fifth dimensional beings of Atlantis and oversee the raising of their vibration to the seventh dimension. If Atramus just joined your reading today, heed his words. The time has come for you to begin integrating with seventh dimensional golden ray energy and initiate the process of anchoring its frequency into your being. This will enable you to shift the old layers of 3D energy and release it naturally. It heralds the next phase of your incredible journey. Holding a clearer vibration allows us to view the world without judgment, but at ease with ourselves and let go of negativity. By accepting Atramus into your life, you are acknowledging you are ready to shift old DNA coding and integrate the high vibrations into your life. Yep, exactly what we're talking about. But this time it's like it's going higher. Interesting. Luna, as her name suggests, right? So I got two cards. So Luna is connected to our moon and her phases. She is a mother figure, and due to her watery nature, she connects to emotions, creativity, and of course, water. Her arrival is a prompt to fully feel your emotions, particularly if you have been avoiding them. Their messages, rather. She urges you to examine them, own them, and release what you no longer need. She says, if you have been feeling overwhelmed, it is fine to ask for help. It's a community thing. This is not a weakness, but an acknowledgement that you have been strong for too long on your own. A little self-care wouldn't go amiss either. You can only fully be who you want to be once you embrace and accept what you really feel. Only then can you truly transform. She urges us to follow our creativity and to revisit latent talents, whether they are musical, written, in the field of performing, and so on. She tells me these activities are good for the soul. You can lose yourself in the moment, become engrossed in a piece of work, and embrace the bliss that accompanies such activities. All right. So, I decided to do something with August date, this portal. And I noticed, because I was basing it on knowledge, a lot of it seems to be based on knowledge, but I also included Lilith in this whole thing. Lilith, like the asteroid. So we'll go with the first one that I got here. Nope. It's the bottom ones here. All right. So, not much conjunct the sun, so that means like governments are not going to be affected. For those who are kind of still new to astrology, ignore the houses. The houses don't apply to anyone here. This is based on Greenwich, England time zone. But I do notice one little thing here. This little trine right here. Right here. That one's cool because that shows that there's kind of like a flow on that day between Pluto and Uranus, and actually Alecto is right there. So crazy, sudden like angers going on. Alecto is about wrath, specifically anger. Alecto is one of the Furies. So people might also be, there might be sort of this feeling like they need to be angry because there's this sort of like this push. Like Let me bring that down for 1 second. I'll be back 1 second here. Okay. Oh wait, that's good. Hmm. Okay. So, and because of her role as the one of the Furies, she was always about like wrath and getting angry, and all the Furies all are pretty basically about vengeance, but it's about creating like order, or I wouldn't say order. It was like it was what was it? It was wrath. It was wrath. If wrath that was inflicted on humans. Um, so what it's probably what I feel Alecto is about here is, let me go back here. On my notes, I got Alecto as, yes, wrath itself, but it's like natural order. It's trying to go back to order. So there might be a lot of like agitation, people feeling agitation, especially like when it comes to technology, um, the changes, the unpredictability, because it's in Uranus. But Uranus is in the last, these are in the critical degrees of Taurus. So that means like there's a lot of energy going on there, a lot of stubbornness happening. But that flows a lot with the Moira, with it's kind of like fated to be. You know, people are going to be feeling this, and the moon rules people in general. So it also rules emotions, magnetism, but also oceans, any sort of body of water, usually closer to harbor areas, um, are, I wouldn't say nervous system, but like the stomach area. So people might feel a lot of nervousness because it is, but it's trying to, there's this grand trine happening here. So there's a lot of changes going on, especially with the populace. This is really what it's saying, that it's going to be this change that's going to happen. Let's see if Pluto is conjunct any other planet here. Ah, Cassandra. People might not know why they know. People might start to doubt, like, why is it that I'm feeling this way? Why is it that I'm feeling these sudden changes? Like, I don't understand. But it is probably going to trigger a lot of Kundalini awakening. When I say Kundalini, it necessarily mean I'm going by Teal Swan stuff, which is like really, it's electricity, right? It's Uranus. It's being awakened. Uranus is about keeping us awake. This is why it's like sudden changes. It rules the nervous system. So a lot of it is rooted in nervous system, possibly also the lower chakras. And people might be feeling this. People might be feeling like, oh, this sudden change. It just explains a lot what's going on here, right? Because of the push and pull that's happening between the old and the new and then whatever, that it's going to be, now it's, what's happening is now you see Pluto is now heading, it's in Aquarius again, 0 degrees Aquarius, 0 degrees 30 minutes, Aquarius right there. Conjunct Cassandra, this is where people feel like they don't know maybe what's going on, or nobody will believe them if they make these changes. Like, I'm awakened, or I have a spiritual awakening, or all of a sudden I can sense things, and other people might be like, what? Are you weird? So there's this natural tendency that that's going to happen. Let's see what else is going to happen here. Hera is going to be there too. Hera conjunct Alecto, that's a big one, because Hera is about jealousy. Hera is about, it's kind of like trying to, Hera isn't necessarily like bad because it's jealousy, but Hera is, she's trying to tell us how to be honest with what we want in terms of specifically like what we commit to, what we're loyal to. She's the Greek equivalent of Juno. Juno is about loyalty, but Hera was not necessarily, she was like overly loyal. She was almost like, she was resentful of her loyalty, and so she kind of like cursed Zeus a lot. Every time any sort of like connections that Zeus had with other people, she punished them instead of him. I mean, not to say that, she should punish him, but it's like, it's very spiteful, it's very vindictive, it's very manipulative, right? So there's that energy of Hera. Hera also rules. She's very judgmental too. So, but it's also about jurisprudence, so being prudent, meaning knowing what's right, but on a more personal level. Because Uranus rules revolutions, people are going to feel like there's this push towards like there's a lot of judgment going on in society, especially with the trine to the moon, and Elector is going to feel like it's going to add that rage and wrathfulness. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like all that negative stuff. But the thing we can learn from this is trying to go back to what is natural and really letting go of the old by realizing that it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean like you completely let it go. There are aspects of the old that still work with the new. That is being open to the a better sense of perception. To put it simply, people say, I think there's a part of humanity that doesn't understand that it's like when we're going in a higher state of frequency or higher, it's not necessarily like things are just going to change. And the opposite goes, it goes for the opposite where it's like, we expect this changes. Everything has to be free now. Everything, there's a revolution going on. There's a, why is it, so we're always like, we're not really, either side can be when there's a lack of presence and really like this loving surrender. It becomes this push, this sort of tense energy. I mean, this is a trine, this is a grand trine, so that's that's typically happening right now. That's what I see. So, on a more mundane level, Hera is also about things that have to do with, what is this? Any obstruction of justice. Law, especially the jury, maybe there might be corruption in the juries. There might be manipulations because it's in Taurus. It's like this sudden grasp for like the physical, for like what is right for you. Self-worth might be included in there because it is Taurus. Belongings, possessions, money, financial institutions, okay, banks. That probably includes anything like theaters, the movie business. I would say that's part of Taurus as well. Farms as well. Anything to do with the earth, anything to do with entertainment, anything to do with food, pleasure, self-worth. So the law is probably included there as well because of Venus. Sort of, not really, sort of, kind of. But it can be as well because of Hera's here is more about the law. There might be also delays. I'm not sure about issues about pregnancies, but the flooding is here too. Hera she rules floods and flooding. That explains the whole thing that I got. It's like, wow, okay, it's wonderful. And madness and insanity, straitjackets, psychic institutions might be affected as well, or at least there's that flow where the people are demanding change. Like you see here, it's in Virgo, right? So it's people are starting to see the little things. But you also have Imhotep there, conjunct the moon. I want to see if there's any other asteroids conjunct the moon here. Moira, yeah, so it's kind of like faded. With Moira, though, I believe that, let's see, let's go back to the beginning. So it could be anything, yes, of course, natural law, but it also refers any certain to do with like natural births and deaths of things. Might be signs, we might start to see little signs, because it's in Virgo. So you might see the little signs, we might get like, right? Let's see. Something to do with feeling crippled or wheelchairs or the handicap, and could be a mental handicap, emotional handicap, spiritual handicap, or literal physical handicap. You might start seeing like prophets. You're already seeing that now. So prophets might, just things are coming up now. This is normal. Also, things changes with the skies. Atmosphere changes. Not just the skies itself, atmosphere, but all the layers. This troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere. And also below that, the subterranean spheres, lithosphere, the crust, upper mantle. So earthquakes is part of this one. That's also because of Uranus as well. So there's an extra bit of push here. Extraterrestrial and subterrestrial space, so inner space and outer space might be part of this as well. You might see like you're probably already seeing this anyways, but for those who don't know, yeah, tampering might be part of this too. A lot of tampering with, because it's in Virgo, tampering with the little things, and Virgo rules workplaces, rules small locations, small businesses, things that protocols, safety protocols might be part of that as well. Medicine, which is also the Virgo thing, anyways. That's Mara. Protective gears, CPR. So tampering, any sort of like life-related stuff. Internet is part of this one too. So yeah, tampering with the internet, any sort of destructive weapons, political divisions and territories. Okay, micronations, sovereign states, territorial disputes, invasions, wars, battles, and fighting, border control, people and drugs and suppressants. Traffic signs might be affected too. Any sort of signs, again, signs, warning signs, alarm clocks, locks. Anything, any sort of sense of symmetry or balance, asymmetry and symmetry. Art, it's called the art principle, but maybe that's part of that. But it is Virgo, so I'm going to skip that one. COLAs, I forgot what that is. Health insurance might be affected by that. People's benefits, the stock market probably will be out of this. Stock options, base pay, like compensations. It's all about compensation. Any form of compensation might be affected. There might be these are being changed so that it's more towards actual change and more about the people. Workers' compensation is part of this one as well. Imhotep is technically it's about astrology, but Imhotep is more than that. Let's look into this one. Imhotep is conjunct the moon. So here we have things that are hidden, things that are kind of kept hidden, something to do with healing, architecture, the sciences, the scientific field, general knowledge, which ties into what I saw earlier with one of the cards, which is like about knowledge. Now it's about going back to, there's this push for the little details for knowing how to work with this Pluto trine, this grand trine between Pluto, Uranus, and the moon with all these asteroids. It's this kind of wanting to know what's going on, people kind of pushing the need to know. But again, it's really more about being present. And so things are definitely coming up. More people like who are gifts maybe towards mysticism, astrology, astronomy, esoteric stuff, really. But also the sciences. So anything mathematical, alchemical, scientific, infrastructures as well. Architecture is probably included in that as well. Psychology, alchemy, astronomy, architecture, there's also a bunch of stuff too. The stuff that's probably included here is the pyramids, or maybe places of that were built so specifically that they were of a connection to mathematical measurements. Like I don't know what to call them, but it's like the pyramids, or like maybe the I probably would include here the ley lines. So specific energetic places that were meant specifically for those measurements. I believe Imhotep rules that one too. I'm not really sure. I'll have to take that into account later. Okay, so any sort of healing is also part of this one, but a more scientific, mathematical, but combined with spirituality. What else? So we saw earlier that Cassandra was here. So Cassandra is in retrograde. So people might feel like they don't know what to do with their gifts. They just know, but it's like they're doubting it. Let's see here. This has a lot to do with purging and death as well. There's people dying as well, not to be negative or anything like that. But like wailing and grieving, but also restored powers, restored ability to kind of in a more, because now we're connecting. There's a process that's changing through Pluto, the Pluto energy. It really ties in with the Pluto energy right now. Um, so confusion might be part of this as well. Um, Sexual corruption, possibly sexual, like kind of like limitations and in this sort of push for like sexual actual understanding what sexual power is rather than the old system because it's in Capricorn with the old systems of how to work with that. So it could also probably include porn industry or sexual things online. It's becoming more spiritualized. So tantric sex might be coming to the surface a little bit more. I'm not sure. Um, Exchanges, forms of exchanges here. People being locked away, possibly. People being controlled and locked away in prisons, imprisonments. The need for pushing the old ways of like forced old marriage, regarding anything regarding marriage, like the old systems, instead of what is more personal. Okay. It says here, because of the myth, Trojan horse, so kind of ambushing might be an issue of ambushing, being ambushed, abductions, ambushing, rape, abuse, okay, and murder. Not to, not to, you know, but something to do with also probably hidden things, madness. Okay. I have to look more into Cassandra, and there's more. I'm always updating the asteroids as I do these things. So, and I find that a lot of times it's like, wow, it's bang on, wonderful stuff, right? Just based on the mythology, wonderful stuff. Anyways, that's the big one that I see here, the Grand Trine. The moon is square Mars Jupiter. So yeah, there's that war stuff, but there is going to be more of that push towards a better type of knowledge, expansive knowledge. That's the least I could say about that one. Change in education, probably. It's not really changed though. Sedna is now Sedna is going to be in Gemini. I'm actually going to read this one chart with Uranus entering Gemini completely. It's in next year. I'm going to read that one for next year and see what happens. That has something to do with educational reform. I forgot to mention Egeria here. Egeria is not really much, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here for a second because I'm actually in the middle of work right now and I'm doing this. So all right, so I just got off work. I wasn't really, well, I wanted to get into this because thought this was interesting, connecting it with the reading that I did earlier. And noticing that I was just like, there's some of the dwarf planets that need to be in here. And I noticed and I was like, okay, that when I added the dwarf planets, specifically like ones that would conjunct the moon, I was like, oh, and then Sedna, of course. Sedna is conjunct Uranus right now. That's a big one because Sedna is like far out for people who have heard about Sedna. But based on the notes that I've had, or rather the research I've been doing, Sedna is actually, before we even get into that one, Cassandra, I wanted to specify what that was because I was talking about how Sedna has something to do with like maybe sex trafficking. I don't know if it's anything to do with that at all, but definitely something to do with sex or something. Maybe the sex industry, the porn industry. Not really porn because it was more about based on the mythology. She refused Apollo's sexual advances in exchange for power, something like that. So it's something to do with exchanging of power. So that's a little bit more literal. That can happen. people being locked up as well. That's part of that as well. Imprisonments happening. Um, what is this one? Uh, young daughter, like young girls being married off young, or what do you call those? Or mail order brides? I'm not sure. Something like that. I don't know if that's still going on today. Abductions, rape is part of that. Abuse, which ties in with the Pluto theme. Um, and of course, murder, and of course, oh yeah, I mentioned earlier abductions and ambushes. Is there any sort of ambushing? Um, but also like maybe not being protected by the government, or rather maybe, well, because it's in Capricorn, so it's something to do with like systems, maybe feeling like abandoned by the government or abused by the government. So that's a common theme that's happening, that ties in with the Pluto. That's still happening. I mean, it's been here for a while. So I mean, it's a long, Pluto is a generational planet, so it's way out there. So that explains, that shows why it's still happening. Um, what else is there? Juno is actually conjunct the moon. You can probably see right here. Right here. Right. So that means like things with marriages. And going back to the Moira thing, we talked a little bit about how it's something to do with whatever I mentioned earlier, plus the whole, I don't remember what I said, with marriages, or like marriage as an institution. That's naturally breaking up. That's a constantly changing. With Sedna in here in Gemini, it's bringing in new information, bringing new, well, I wouldn't say new actually, it's like a return. Sedna is really about absolute forgiveness. Now, this is where I'm going to go into Sedna. So, Sedna is its evolution in awareness, just to kind of sum it up. But she's about natural cycles, abundance, scarcity, abandonment, betrayal, because of her based on the mythology, taboos, transgressions, survival, stubbornness, free will and independence, manipulation, retribution. So it ties in with the Uranus theme going on right now. And she's also on a more mundane level, like mundane astrology wise, the things that are going on in the world. It's a lot to do, of course, with freedom, but not in a very shocking way. It's like a natural, more feminine, like divine feminine kind of like release, it's a release and trusting. But it's also social and or gender roles are also part of this one, because in the mythology she was basically tricked or seduced by this foreign lover who was actually a raven or crow, and she was taken away from that. And that actually ties in with the astronomy of it, which is like planet Sedna was actually kind of pulled out of the solar system, way out. So, but it's also kind of like the betrayal of systems, and kind of like because of the betrayal or the abandonment, it's like finding your inner divine, right? That kind of ties in with the Sedna theme. But on a more physical level, I would say she's more about is this a lot to do with like changing belief systems, where we are trying to go back into the original stuff, like the old ancient maybe primordial, but definitely way ancient stuff, like that was here before religion, right? Talking about religion, that ties in with Capricorn, right? Not really the moon, kind of. Cancer is sort of like that. It's more traditional stuff, but that's really more of Jupiter. But Jupiter actually here squares the moon, right? Is it square the moon? 24 degrees. Double check here. Yeah, it is square Jupiter. So there's a change. There's that Mars there is pushing for this energies being brought forth and expanded by Jupiter. but Jupiter is also traditions and philosophies, belief systems, dogma. So there's a change towards that that's happening. I wouldn't say necessarily change again here because Mars is there's this. I'm just saying that there's a push for it, especially with Mars Jupiter square Saturn and Saturn in retrograde. Now it's Saturn in retrograde is like the opposite of typical Saturn, which is kind of like the opposite. Not really. It pulls back that Saturn really restricted. So it's almost like an awkward Saturn. It's like there's no restriction. The boundaries fall. There's no plus it's in Pisces. It's all about disillusion and kind of like breaking it apart. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and it's funny because Neptune here is retrograde too. So people might feel like more awakened to their own reality and inner realities. But going back to the Saturn thing, with being in Pisces and Pisces ruled by Neptune, Neptune adds that flavor. It's Pisces is kind of like it's that energy of how to explain this. It's not just disillusion. It's like infectious, something that is infectious because Neptune rules infectious diseases. So what that means is something that is kind of like that will latch on. It's like if you look at water and gentle water, if you leave it in your hand, water stays in your hand for a while, right? So that's the same thing. It's infectious in a way that it kind of latches on. It stays there. So there's a sort of disillusion, but it's meant to, if you ever leave anything closed and you just, wash it, it's just been washed rather, and you leave it kind of like in a sort of enclosed container, the water itself has nowhere to go, or at least it evaporates very, very slowly. But because of that, it has nowhere to go, but it latches onto what it's attached to, especially if it's biodegradable stuff like fruits. You'll see it starts to develop mold. So a kind of an infection. I hope that makes sense. So how that ties in with the Saturn thing is that kind of there's infection going on with the on society and the structures and the limitations and kind of breaking down. So Pisces and Pluto, or Neptune and Pluto, kind of act very similarly like that. They break things down. It's tied to their signs that they rule, which is where the elements are, which is water, right? Scorpio, Pisces. So going back to Jupiter here, Gemini is like where there's a push for knowledge. It's in Gemini, or expansion of knowledge and knowing more about the truth and breaking down of systems, or breaking down, dissolving of structures, or any sort of hard, like really structures, like, that it probably includes lead. Saturn also rules like tradition. So it's and it's in retrograde. It's almost like this traditions are kind of like really they're dissolving. With this T square, I don't know if you could see it here, right here, right there. That T square is the pull is from Mars and Jupiter. It's pulling away at the breaking down, and then how the people kind of see where the breaking down is happening, and it just pull for expansion of that breaking down, and an expansion for the people, and also specifically like the expansion of the energy being pushed away from this how people understand marriage itself, marriage institution, being kind of discovering our own loyalty to our own inner humanity, our own emotions, and kind of looking at the little things though, because it's in Virgo. So it's a little bit more practical than emotional. But there is something else about Sedna. I wanted to go back to Sedna because Sedna rules, I would say here, foster systems. I'm not sure about this one, but for sure, environmentalism is included here. Animals, people, specifically like native people, like in the Americas or Aboriginals, and anywhere you go. It also rules things like reindeer, walruses, whales, birds, ravens, foxes, crabs, igloos, lamps, and lights. Okay, I think I don't know where I got cut off from. I think I was like cut off from every time I get kicked out because I was recording through Google Drive, a Google Meet, and there's like this thing if you're not in a groups setting, I don't know why they kick you out, but it's anyways. Yeah, I don't know where I left off. So I'm gonna just go jump into, if I miss anything, write down in the comments down below. But if I miss anything, Juno, I was talking about Juno, how it pertains to marriage, how it pertains to currency as well, how things are changing with currency. A lot of things are moving into the air signs and fire signs. What else was there? Yeah, I think that was kind of it. Yeah. Hopefully, I didn't miss anything, but it's okay. We see them happening every day. When you observe and we're present, when we see like, okay, this chart says reveal and kind of prove that it's like, okay, these are the things that are happening right now. So let's see. Okay, so we have, I think we did Moira already. We talked about it. I recorded it before. Alecto. Oh, I didn't go specifically into Alecto. So other than the fact that it's about rage and wrath, and because it's the Furies, a lot of it is like things to do with, because it's in Taurus, a lot of issues like, a lot of like anger, rage, and damage, and that kind of negative energy towards each other. I'm still trying to understand the Furies, like what they kind of do in terms of like literally what they do, because it's about retribution, it's about vengeance, but towards those who, that's the mythology, right? Because that could also be literal, that it's people getting on each other's nerves, people hurting each other, especially when they're not connected, when they're against it, they're resisting changes, because there's a lot of fear, right? Everything is rooted, anything that's, when it's rooted in fear, it's very down, low vibration, low energy. But to be specific, that's really what those are. But there's also a bunch of things here, like, for example, like sacrilege is part of this one. People lying, false confessions is part of this one. The tested lying, perjuries is part of this one. Obstruction of justice, okay, murder trials, insanity offenses, psychopathy, psychosis, criminal offenses, indictable offenses, prosecution, and persecution, I believe. Something to do with the legal systems, the courts, jurors, legal duties, responsibilities, the judge, jury, of course, police investigators, or investigations happening. People probably feel like nightmares, like they're kind of, it's waking nightmares, because there's like subconscious truths, it's coming out. It's like there's this push towards like, realization. It's like, all that stuff. When I'm so glad that I'm like, at least have experienced a lot of that in my entire life. I'm not trying to show off here or anything. It's just that with the experience that I've had, it's kind of like, through all this ego death, it's just, even when sometimes I don't feel comfortable. Well, I don't say comfortable. I would feel weird saying the word I. It feels familiar, but it's not. I don't know. Because I still have reactions. I still have those, but you can't suppress those and bypass any of those things. Anyways, going back to Alecto, the things are coming up, right? Subconscious, especially from the subconscious. This can also include things like, it goes back to hunting as well. Hunters and hunting included in this one. That's interesting, right? So something to do with hunting or being hunted or hunters or chasing after things. It could also be figurative, right? So in the mythology, it says, Alecto's function is similar to Nemesis, with the difference that Nemesis' function is to castigate crimes against the gods, not mortals. So here it's about punishing humans. So in this case, it's more like what that, for me, what that means is this humans kind of like punishing each other, right? So they're just like, you're this left wing, right wing kind of thing. Everybody's like in chaos. So, but it also, I like to also rules like libations or liquid offerings. It's funny how this comes up because it's like liquid, and then I saw in the cards it's like water, right? And plus everything, recently, currently, like Saturn is in water, it's in Pisces. Neptune is still in Pisces. So there's a shift happening, yes, but there's something about the offering to liquid offerings. Like, what does that mean? What is liquid offering? Like drinks? So refreshment or revitalization or sort of quenching a need or thirst for something better, right? For the truth. So in this case, offering to ourselves, offering to, our own inner divinity and making offerings to it and honoring ourselves, So it kind of ties in exactly with that one. What else? So yeah, and also people going mad. A lot of things that are horrible, against people, persons against persons. Like, so that's really much what's happening here. I got these, so I chose these specific. There's lots of asteroids I'm working with. I chose these ones because for some reason I wanted to work on something with knowledge. So these are the ones that came up. So whatever comes up, and then the charts will just show it depending on how we're going about it. There's this other chart I want to go into, which is we have here, of course, Neptune is opposite the moon. We never really talked about that, but Neptune opposite the moon, and then Delphine is there. Delphine is visions, or things that are visionary. But because it's in retrograde, it's almost like people feel maybe disconnected from what's true and what they see. So people might get misconceptions. There might be a lot of rumors happening as well, gossip, like misjudgments wrote here. It's also hidden knowledge, but it's also coming out. We have here Delphine, Neptune, sextile Uranus. So there's this natural change for that, especially when we work hard at it, when we actually bring focus into it, when we actually intend to do those things. Okay. Delphine is also about shaking grounds. So it ties in with the Uranus energy. It's like Earth, like that whole shaker sort of thing. Breaking apart things, sudden changes, right? That's why Uranus rules earthquakes. Suffering from gossip, lies, deceit, schemes, prophecies. That's more of that stuff coming in. Can express your exaggerated negative emotions. Yes, inner truth, similar to what's happening with what we just talked about. Deceit, secrets, desolations, part of this, hearsay. So a lot of it is gossip, or true or false information, or visions. Fake news is still happening there. But because it's in retrograde, I would say on a worldly level, a mundane level, it's like the whole fake news thing. It's like, I call this. It's kind of happening in small little pockets in the world because it's in retrograde, but it keeps happening because it's small, it's internal. It also rules plagues. Unfortunately, there's some areas in the world who are going through that. Not to laugh at that. I'm not laughing at it, but yeah. Something to do with serpents and snakes. So I don't know if that's anything to do with what is that? Ancient culture, the Hydra. If you look at the fixture of Hydra, not Hydra like Marvel, but like where there were what do you call this? Shapeshifters. So what that means is like they're able to. I don't know what the reason of the shapeshifting is, but something to do with creativity. Feels like it's something to do with that kind of stuff. Like shape-shifting is an ability. I feel like it ties in a lot with our ability to change, right? And as a shapeshifter, it's like it goes from either this or that way, which actually is funny because it ties in with the Pisces energy. Pisces is the vacillating energy. Female warriors or protectors or guards is part of that. Mirrors. So it's a lot to do with shadow work as well. In vitro processing, including infections and or toxins, ties in with Neptune right there. But in vitro processing, so I don't know, maybe something to do with insemination. I don't know. There's one of the planets that deals with insemination. I believe that is, what is that one? Sethos. Yeah. And it's funny because Sethos is 27 degrees. 27 degrees square Neptune. Hello, yes, insemination. Sethos rules insemination. So, what else? Delphine also rules like missing persons, nameless persons. So that could happen as well. I don't know if it's been happening. Something also to do with caves. No. Definitely like wombs as well. It's part of the womb as well. So people getting pregnant. Not necessarily getting pregnant, but like this whole birthing of a new era. Right? So there's also from this one. That was a big one here. Iduna is opposite. Iduna is it's about like counseling. She's about eternal youth, fertility. Is it counseling? No, immortality, mortality, rejuvenation. With Mars and Mercury, with Venus and Mercury conjunct, it's actually square Uranus. People are finding it challenging to communicate, and people probably relate to each other. They get nitpicky, and we're not sure about how to communicate, and we're kind of doubting relationships. It's in perfect conjunction here, almost to the minute, not really, but 3 degrees each, right? So retrograde Mercury, it's kind of going back inwards, but people are probably feeling this like, there's this doubt. So traveling might be kind of weird, especially local traveling, or rather specifically because it ties in with Venus. It's like this sort of uncertainty in communication. And because of that, we get kind of nitpicky, pedantic, and very sort of like in your face kind of thing. What else is here? So Iduna, because of its opposition to Iduna rules close calls. Things that are like almost happened, things that are like crucial points, critical points, or kind of like at a crucial point in history. And it's in Pisces, but it's in retrograde. So it feels like it doesn't feel like there's this rush to rush things. Let me keep going here. So here, let me see. What did I write here? Crucial and critical points, healing and medical knowledge, expertise is part of that. Which ties in with the Virgo. Intelligence or government intelligence is probably included here. So maybe there's like this, yes, there's this trust of the systems, but in this case, like intelligence, right? So people are probably wondering who's doing what, people getting suspicious. Like, that's going on, that's been going on for a while, but I'm really just reading what's on the charts. Something to do with pyres, falcons, eagles, predators and prey. Not sure. Not seeds, so reseeding, sort of like this whole like planting new things again. Ties in with the return of Sedna. Sedna's closer to Earth now. I think it's in what you call the perihelion or aphelion, which one is whatever's closer. So that means like it's coming back. Things are coming back. Valleys and forests, dales, elves, siphons, booties, guardianship, guardians and guards, medicines again. Okay, so a lot of medicine stuff. Salves, balms, ointments, substance dependency. That ties in with the Pisces energy there, and also Neptune. Substance abuse as well. So anything to do with edges, brinks, like almost there, like falling cliffs. On the verge of things, for example. I also wrote here gerontophobia, so fear of old people or dying. Okay, so that kind of ties in with the Saturn placement here, because Saturn rules traditions and also like the elderly and older people, grandparents, I believe so. So we're doing it there. So I feel like this is more like because it's in Pisces, something to do with the government because it's connected to Saturn's placement here. Going into Pele retrograde, Pele is about like really like strong anger. Could be wrath as well, but like really passionate anger. Because it's in retrograde, it's almost like invisible. But we're talking about the world right now, right? So Pele rules volcanoes. There's a lot of asteroids that are connected to volcanoes, but Pele is one of them. It's about passion, anger, jealousy, banishments, misunderstandings, temper, irrational and irritability, irrational behavior rather, but self-mastery. It's mastering your own anger. Power struggles is kind of like Pluto. It's in Aquarius, so it's something to do with the people. Let's see here. Intensities, creation, destruction. So anything like a volcano, right? But it also rules combustion. So things like maybe people getting to fire, like pyromania or pyrotechnics or whatever it's called. Arsony. Arson. So something to do with combustions and but the wildfires is the one thing. So things that are happening, wildfires, forest fires, volcanic eruptions, right? It's in retrograde, so I feel like this one means that it's not active. I think that when Pele goes out of retrograde, I don't know when that is actually. Let's take a look. I'm going to take a look at the ephemeris. Let's see, what do I see here? Oh, what am I doing? I could just look at it on the page that I was in. And I'm going to look at the ephemeris, ephemerides. Let's look at the next 10 years. Okay, and I'm going to go into Pele. Let's see where Pele is. I want to make sure I get the right year though. Okay, so for the year 2024, oh, it's just 2024. Let me change this one here. So, yeah, 10 years, that's fine. Okay, so right now, Pele is, I hear a high-pitched. Let's see, right now Pele is in 18 degrees Aquarius, 2024. August 8th. Okay, it'll be in retrograde and it will go direct. By October. Okay, that kind of ties in with what's going on. So there might be volcanic explosion. I can't really say. Okay, don't take my word for it. But there might be explosions. Come October, somewhere close to October this year. So with the retrograde gone, it's like and it's in Aquarius. It's unpredictable. But again, astrology is a language of probability. It's not always true, but it can happen as well. But could be also other things too. More forest fires. The more global warming is part of this one as well. Charring, anything to do with fire, really. Inflammations as well. Little things like people getting headaches, right? And then we can see that as like maybe it's a little thing, but it can also mean something else. It's in square Pallas Athena, so that means that with a square, it's people are not able to not only not express what they're feeling, but also possibly this disconnection from source, disconnection from higher wisdom. Pallas Athena is like still weird for me. I'm still trying to understand what she's all about. I know it's like wisdom, people say all these things and all that stuff. I wrote here awareness, connection, vision, wisdom, and prudence. So I would say, let's see here. She rules patriotism and nationalism, so also the military as well, civilizations, wilderness. So it's kind of like this wisdom we get from, do we honor our inner truth, like our instinct? And then, kind of like, she's kind of like the opposite of Artemis. Or Artemis is more about the wild, but Pallas Athena or Athena is more about like civilized, being civilized. But there's a wisdom in it where there's a part of that, our inner Athena is all about making mistakes and realizing it's like, oh, we can't be better than everybody else. Just because I have all this wisdom doesn't mean I'm better than everybody else. So, but Athena here also rules things like instructors, patronage, coaching, mentors, guardianships, athletes as well. So there could be that as well. Passion of athletes, I'm not sure. But something also with governments. I don't know if that ties in with the volcanoes. I don't know if that ties in with the reading that I got. But feels like it's not really tying in. But there could be something else. Oh, insemination is part of it. That's interesting. So insemination could also mean here that it's if it's insemination, then that could also mean like people getting into like the chips in your body. I don't know. That's interesting. But it's in Aquarius too. Pella is in Aquarius, but Pallas Athena is in Scorpio. That kind of makes sense. Like maybe some people will start to get into that. It could not necessarily mean like, maybe not necessarily insemination. I wrote ex vitro fertilization. So ex vitro fertilization is opposite of in vitro. In vitro is natural procreation, well, fertilization. Ex vitro is insemination. Still insemination. In vitro is like it's inside your body, but ex vitro is like you're putting the egg and the sperm together, but they're in an incubator or something like that. I don't know what it's called, but basically that's what it is. It's that outside, the baby's growing outside. It's like a Borg thing. So these things are kind of coming up. I wouldn't be surprised if that's not that. If that's there. But I also saw something else. Human rights, part of that as well. Naturally, people fighting and getting angry. Pele's anger. So governments against governments. Like, what is this? It's not wise, right? Pallas Athena. Something to do with spiders as well. Arachnids. Resistance movements. Okay, commemorating ceremonies or traditions. Corrupt systems. It's part of this one. Beheadings and hangings, not to be negative. Cliff jumping. Plunges. Okay. Hoarding knowledge. The internet is part of this as well. Privacy of information. Government conspiracies. Hidden and lost knowledge. pyramid-based schemes and systems, top-down structures. What? Pretty much ties in with the placement in Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn. So while the Pluto in Capricorn is ending and it's going to Aquarius, there's still people who are still fighting the old, fighting traditions, and there could be corruptions because of this fear, and then it gets into greed and all that stuff, right? Left or right-wing politics, beliefs and ideologies related to that, alliances or vice versa. But there could also be teamwork and alliances, cooperative projects, intellectualism, probably think tanks, intellectual circles, groups, organizations. So I would say that the latter is the one that's happening more, because Pluto it's in Aquarius and we're in the Aquarian age, and it's no doubt you're seeing it more and more now. I'm optimistic about that kind of stuff. It is scary in terms of like, there's a part of you in the back of your head, it's like the ego going like, is this even true? Is this coming true? Is this happening? What's going on? But I think if we're really going back to the present, it really doesn't make any difference whether you see the chart or not. But I'm doing this really more for myself because it's like, oh, it's fun, it's interesting. Pandora is square this collective north node. Let's see here. What did I write about Pandora? She's naturally like the whole like worms, can of worms, right? But what I wrote here, she's about misuse of sex. Oh, that ties in exactly what I said earlier with the so Lilith, the card that I put up, Lilith, that showed a lot of that. It showed me that it's like, wow, it's like sexual power. It could also be misused, especially if it's against you and you don't have to work with that sexual energy. Sexual energy has nothing to do with sex. Well, it can, but it's just sex is just an expression of that, right? So sexual power is the creative power. So, but on a worldly, more physical level, misogyny is probably here, necessary evil. Okay, that's interesting, because that means it's part of the balance where it's like, when I say necessary evil here, I was looking into the Kabbalah stuff, which is like Qliphoth, stuff like that. I was looking into it, it's like, oh, that's interesting. It's like exactly like shadow work, but going really deep into like not being used by the dark energies, not being used by these demons, this is the negative energy, because negative energy is very small, it's very closed in, right? But when we can learn from that stuff, we can transmute those and learn it and find the gift behind all that stuff. It's very shadow work. And shadow worky. Patriarchy, matriarchy, duality. Okay, she's a good wife or independent single mother, so it's something to do with those. People fighting for their own. Again, it ties back into everything we've been talking about. But the one that got to me was like the whole necessary evil thing. That was interesting. The fool turned wizard. That's interesting. Gifted children, special needs, or gifted children. The new generations coming in, the babies, are those ones. I believe that's Pandora. Let's see what sign Pandora's in. Pandora, of course. Pregnancy, mother, homes, instant cancer. Of course. But maybe then the collective is probably kind of getting challenged by that. Like maybe there's new information coming in through the younger generation, especially the babies coming in. And with it also square core. There's actually a grand square here. Wow, okay. It's a cardinal square too. Core is the rhythm of life. That's what I would put it. But before we get into core, I want to finish up what I talked about here with Pandora. Sources of information, so the internet. Again, it's also the internet. Books, libraries, social media. Also plagues. That's a natural. That's kind of a given with Pandora. So plagues are still happening. Unwrapping presents. Oh, that's... But basically finding the gifts within, right? That's kind of like the box of Pandora. You can either just see it when you open up a gift. You can either choose to see it as like, or you can appreciate it, or be present and say, it's the energy behind it. It's like just being present. So it's neither opposite nor the opposite, right? I know I'm not being clear right now when it comes to those things, but I'm running through the charts and seeing what else I can find. So core is was it Philip Sedgwick? He called them like the rhythm of life. But core is actually more than that. He's about the transitions from initiations, like from a shift in maturity. That's core. But core is also belief. Core is a higher vibration of Jupiter, which is like this unlimited belief in potential. I feel this in my chart because mine's conjunct Ixion, and it's just like always this huge, like this. I've always known this, and it's like, oh, this really strong belief. There's another planet there. Oh, Lancelot. I have conjunct my core and Ixion in my 4th house. And this like opportunistic sort of like, not, it's beyond opportunity. It's kind of like, how to explain this? This life, like understanding, it's like, I need to breathe, right? It's ironic because I do what I can. There's a lot of issues that I'm still working with, and it's a process. I don't have all the answers, but I mean, you go through the process, you go through the trauma, and you learn from it. It happens again and again. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to get into that right now. That's not what this is about. Okay. So core also rules like foreigners. So foreign lands, foreigners, languages, ancestry, countries, or relationships between countries. Division, possibly as well. But also rules things like, not to be negative, genocides, power struggles, homicides. But also something to do with past life stuff. It ties in, that makes sense. So we're kind of going back to the past as well with core. Let's see what core is. Okay, so core is in Capricorn. So recognizing, but it's in retrograde. So it's almost like a inner recognition of our ancestry or what was before, the systems that have come and that are going to go. And looking at it, it's like, oh, okay. And core will be here for a while. Core is like out there. So it'll be in Capricorn for a while, where the other planets are going to be in air and fire sign. Core will be in Capricorn. So it'll be more like the observation of it. In this case, kind of core, once it goes, especially when it goes direct, it's going to change I think it's going to bring in new things, not necessarily new, but like this sort of welcoming and acceptance of future systems. So maybe not necessarily a system per se, but kind of, yeah, right? Because it's like you can't get away from form if we're just running away from it. That's in denial and the resistance of being in this planet. It's funny because core rules past and future, so that makes sense, right? So we're learning from the past and going into the future. So it rules multiculturalism, like I said, multiculturalism, languages, cultures, countries. Culture shocks as well, so cultural suppression possibly, anti-label, adulteration of beliefs, imposition of beliefs, labeling, delabeling. I need to work more on core. Looking at the myth, there's something there. Led to night dividing human ancestors into races. Okay. So, that whole, there's the division thing. So, division of systems. That's what would make sense right now. But it is square south node. So the division of systems, which the north and the past and the future, and the north node, the past, the north and south node, is showing me here. There's these things that we're learning from as a collective. This is grand square. I'm doing this. We're doing grand square. You can see it here. Right there. Boom, right there. So, because it's in retrograde, it's kind of happening more in smaller communities. Once it goes direct, that's when this whole thing with Pandora, like there's sort of can of worms opening up. The systems are going to change and create new systems, new homes, different new beliefs. When I say beliefs, as in like, yeah, right. And we're going to have to come to this balance of wondering where, wondering where things are, learning from it, and actually, I'm kind of running out of words. But the point is that it's going to kind of create this system that is going to be much different than it was before. That's kind of like, I feel like for me, when I say that, I feel like I know that that's a given. For you guys, it's like, how? What? Well, core rules countries, right? So that means that there's going to be divisions, there's going to be, but there's also going to be unities. So even though we're divided, we're also united, depending on the decisions that are being made. With Pandora, going back to Pandora, what did I see here? It's all about that. When we start to open a can of worms, we have to kind of be conscious and say, what is that? What is that? What is that? Right? So it's skepticism. I wrote down here healthy and unhealthy skepticism, or pessimism, or optimism. Right? The internet will be part of this as well. Will be part of that change, or books, or libraries, social media. So not necessarily those, but could be sources of information. Right? Unfortunately, yes, the plagues are part of that. So the plagues are going to teach us how to be more. These things are being shown to us as a way to, like, when change doesn't happen, it's going to happen. And Gaia is like, it's just like, nope, I'm elevating. You guys got to elevate with me. Otherwise, bye-bye. That's the nature of Mother Nature. The nurture is what it was before, but because we've abused it, it's like, nope, I need to be nature now. I need to have a darker side, because you need to listen. Gaia is part of the whole system. Like Gaia, just like that's like in their cells in our system. Every part in our system, their body, are part of the whole system of our system. Pretty much those are systems. That's the good thing about Capricorn, is that energy of understanding of systems. Everything has like a structure, not necessarily separate because it's a system, but because it's like it creates. What do you call this? It's part of the universe creating, expanding consciousness, so that it learns of itself, like its potential. Right? I learned that in order to expand, or in order to expand, we have to learn. But in order to learn, we need to understand polarity, or at least division. And it's funny because it's like, that's Pandora. That's core, sorry, division. Pandora can also be division, in a certain way. But there, you see what I mean? So it's like, so there's this need to come together and figure out the new system we're going to get into, right? Pandora is going to be in water for a while. Core is going to be in water for a while. This grand square is going to be a pivoting moment in, at least in this earthly history. I also see here Quetzalcoatl. I took some notes here. Quetzalcoatl. It's a really long name. So it's a lot of the asteroids I find that they kind of come off the same way. There's like divine this, now large this, wisdom that. We get it. But there's something more specific than that. Because if I keep going, I see. So Quetzalcoatl is many things, right? He's actually about unconscious to conscious transformation, or knowledge to wisdom. Pretty much everything is involved with Quetzalcoatl, but he's about humanity itself. It's about fertility. It's funny because I also put here drunkenness or intoxication. That's interesting. Fermentation. So how does that tie in with Chiron? Okay. Okay. So Quetzalcoatl here in retrograde, it's the individualized and repeating wounding of our freedom. And we kind of, you know, there's a reason why it's opposite. Well, first of all, Chiron is square Pluto here. Square Pluto and Cassandra. So, again, ignore the houses. So square Pluto and Cassandra, it's like we have a hard time understanding our gifts because we're trying to escape away from them, and we're getting drunk in going back to the past stuff, the delusions and the beliefs we have of what is freedom. It's like, oh, I'm gonna run away, I'm gonna drink my ass off, I'm gonna do drugs, I'm gonna do all those things. That's what it's saying. That's what it's saying here. At least that's how I'm reading it. Right. So, however, there's good news though. The Quetzalcoatl Chiron is trine the sun. So, well, here the trine the sun is showing one side and the other. I see like there's two sides to this one. You see this right here? The side versus, and then it goes into the other side right here. The square is showing the kind of the opposition. One side is going here and the other side is going there. It's almost like governments. It's funny. The sun rules governments. So governments are kind of naturally, catering to that drunkenness and escapism and running away from true freedom. Whereas with the people, they're naturally going for, finding your inner worth, finding your inner gifts, working through the trauma, really breaking down and really getting to the core truth of things, finding the inner power in connection to not only the divine, but connection to the wholeness that is as above, so below, right? So there's this thing. It's happening. That kind of makes sense. I'm not going to go too much into that now. There's so much. Let's see, what else here? Cersei. Humans creating boundaries, or at least in this case, because it's retrograde, humans not knowing how to create boundaries for themselves. Individual boundaries. They just want to think, I just want this freedom. This is what it is. Fuck it all, kind of thing. Cersei is about boundaries, like as in like needed boundaries. But there's a bit of seduction and charm associated with that. But Cersei is also about witchcraft. When I say witchcraft, I mean like your inner witch, right? Shadow magic, genuine willpower, right? So if the misuse of power is probably part of this one as well. Excuse me. Cersei opposite South Node. That's interesting. Both are opposite South Node. Cersei is conjunct North Node. So people are learning to work with that energy of the Cersei energy of what is this one? Regressions. So animalistic regressions. That's Cersei as well. Herbs working with potions. That's something else. Resurrection, necromancy. So in other words, it's kind of like we're manipulating death. If that is the case, this is in retrograde, we're unsure about these things. So we kind of just like trying to, I guess maybe this is now tied to NDEs. That's interesting. Resurrection, necromancy. I should have put NDEs here as well, but that makes sense. So people now coming with their stories, right? I mean, it is, where is it? We're learning of it through Uranus. Is that the one? Not sure where that's connected to. 7-5 degrees. Oh, yeah. Cersei. Square Odin. And here, Odin is the thirst for knowledge. Thirst for knowledge in Cancer. Our heritage, our ancestry, our lineage, DNA, where we come from, with Cersei there, conjunct North Node. It's not in this chart, but it is here, right here, right? So, so Cersei is that whole. Cersei is also lineage, anyways. It's funny. Reverting lineages, feminism, dragon, archangels, probably as well. That's interesting. And so trying to go back to our more ancestral self, like back to source, the higher elevation. So we're trying to elevate. But with the whole thing that I mentioned earlier, which is the resurrection, necromancy, NDEs, that ties in with the NDE stuff that's going on, that people are coming forward with their knowledge. I see it online. I mean, people who, if you've seen Next Level Soul podcast, that, what's his name? Forgot his name. The interviews he's done, a lot of NDEs, near-death experiences, for those who don't know. Right? So it's interesting, right? I want to go back to Odin here. Yeah. Actually, Odin is... Oh, Odin. Megaira is in the south node. Megaira is just like the Furies. So again, similar thing as before, but Megaira is about envy, jealousy, like really like harm that you cause to each other because you're so jealous of them. It's like insecurity. And that ties in with the Libra placement with South Node in Libra. So there could be issues about those. So again, right, so you have with Megaira opposite, sounds like MacGyver, Megaira opposite Cersei, it's like people are manipulating the past if we're not working through the jealousy, the disconnection from each other, and the toxic relationships or the toxic perceptions that we've had. It's like we're not going to move forward and be able to create healthier boundaries, and we might misunderstand what that knowledge is, because Odin is not just knowledge itself, a thirst for knowledge. Odin is it's a trade-off. It's what I learned recently about him, because I was talking to my sister. It's like, wow, that sounds a lot like Odin. He traded one of his eyes to attain divine knowledge. That's the way I see it, at least. What did I put here? Odin. Okay, here we go. So it's transmutation. Wit and wittiness, calmness, wisdom, true knowledge, practical, cursed, whatever. It's like the price you pay for knowledge. That's it. He's also about the apple, right? The fruit of knowledge, integration of body with soul, till death do us part, or to the death. That's very much it. He's very much extreme. It's like, and also timely experiences. So divine timing, right? Consoling and grieving, trusting the divine timing, of course. Beyond earth, new creation, right? So here, just with that whole new creation thing, we won't be able to move into what people are calling the new earth unless we come to terms with our past and towards, and see that the future is a potential, but being in the present. Really, it's all about that. True power, embracing true power. It all comes from the present. Lineage, ancestry, still goes back to lineage, ancestry. Legacy, fertility, duality of the 3D reality here. Wholeness within, presence and awareness, source energy. Healing, guidance through experiencing death, royalty, okay. Something to do with like hanging. Sorry. Disembodiment. Sorry about this one. But this could also be the disembodiment, not literal disembodiment or beheadings or hangings of disembodiment of family structures, or at least like the traditional stuff. Because Cancer rules traditions, similar to Capricorn. They're both the and also families. It's really the what to call. I learned that it's tied to the nadir and the midheaven, which is the, what is that one called? The family axis. But that's still tradition, because it's where you came from. It's from that. Like in Italian, traduzione, Is that translation? No, that's translation. Tradition. Something to do with that, but it's something to do with tra, which means from. So, anyways, so this is part of Odin. There's also battles included in this one, judgments. More on a mundane level, he's definitely also the internet or archives, usually older knowledge, not necessarily that, but also the Akashic records, Akashic library, new information, processed or regurgitated waste knowledge, okay, leftovers. So things that were left behind in the past, because it also ties in with lineage and goes into the present. Medicinal drugs like ayahuasca, psilocybin, mead, alcohol, okay, possessions and or exorcisms, maybe death or the angel of death, ghosts and paranormal, psychopomps, Germanic cultures. This is the big one. Oh, maybe not the Germanic part, but something to do with that. I don't know what that is, but there might be something. But if it's Germanic cultures, then you're talking about English, right? That's part of it too. So, fathers and father figures, multiple children, spreading of one seed. In other words, like fertility, right? Blindness. I don't know if that's anything to do with blindness. So, yeah, not being able to see or being able to see. Blindness or the opposite, or partial blindness. Things in pairs. Horses as well. I don't know if that has anything to do with that. It's funny how the word ravens also is part of this one. Wolves. That ties in with Sedna. Right here. Sedna's right here, beside Alecto and Uranus. So, I think I'm going to end there. There's other bunch stuff too. Oh, Osiris. Osiris is square. Chiron. Osiris is resurrection. Osiris is like kind of like Odin, but he's more about dissemination. It's so funny because Osiris is right here and Pluto is there too. So Osiris is continuously adding to that dissemination, breaking down, falling apart of the systems. And in retrograde, it's more in the private and more personal areas. It could be breaking down of our old beliefs and our old belief systems inside, individually, but also collectively. Osiris will be... Let's see here. It's in retrograde right now, so let's see when Osiris goes direct. Okay, so I think around October as well. Similar placement to like Pele. It's funny because Osiris is in the, what is that one called? The asteroid belt, the one that's between Mars and Jupiter. That kind of makes sense. But they're all over. There's so many all over, so they're not all at the same time. But Osiris is tying in with Pele. October. That's what I'm seeing. It's going direct October, so I could be wrong. But what that means is it'll reactivate what did I see here? Sorry, I'm looking at Odin. Oh, okay. Uncovering things, recovery and uncovering things, resurrection. So it's not just about getting a belt, but literally uncovering things, bringing out the truth. Also breaking down. This is also NDE stuff. More NDEs might start popping up. Going back to insemination as well. Wow, interesting. Okay. So it's all kind of tying in together, but like literally specific areas of here and there, and not all are the same, but they're aspects of one that's like in the other, and here in the other, and here in the other. I hope that makes sense. Things are going to be also be replaced. That's also Osiris, by the way. So new systems definitely going to come through. It's funny because earlier we had, what was it? Core. So it's transitions. Core is more about the transition. Osiris is going to be more about the replacements. So wonderful stuff happening. So yay! So I think that's it for now. Thank you for your patience. I know it's kind of dark and the lighting is not that good right now, but I hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comment down below. Like and subscribe. And I want to be able to connect. If you have any ideas or insights that come to you, if you also are an astrologer, if you're a tarot reader, if you're psychic, you're a medium, or you channeler, go ahead and comment. There's more to this whole thing than what I've said. We can definitely go into so much detail, but there's only like so much time in this one. So thanks for watching, guys. See you guys later.